Hello, everyone, and welcome to another discussion with me and Joanna. And today, given the fact that I've had several sessions that involve this topic, I figured this time has come to actually have this discussion. Uh, this is an uncomfortable discussion for a lot of people, and this involves the aspects of the spirit world and what it involves and what it entails. Now, in several of my sessions, I've had this very thing pop up, which is slightly confusing, where I found compartmentalized bubbles, if you will, or some people can call them idyllic heavens or idyllic afterlives. And in this particular concept, I see people with their own religious beliefs. I see people with their own ways of doing things, and be it magical, be it cultural, racial, whether they want to be separatist, whether they want to be unified, it doesn't matter. And the read that I had today involved, like, say, the Haitian culture, for instance, and some of their magical techniques and their spells and everything. And there was a particular individual that was casting a spell on a building that she thought she was doing it for protection, but it was actually infecting the nearby land and the foundation of the apartment building in which she was staying in. She wasn't making a grid in the apartment that she was staying in, she was seeping it into the nearby land. Well, I had to get her to stop doing it, but she was transforming it on a molecular level. And so I had to actually stop her from doing it. She then thought I was attacking her. And then from out of nowhere came some of her ancestors that said, "Stop attacking our soul family." And I said, "I'm not attacking, I'm protecting." And I mean, there's a fine line between that, I suppose. But they tried to come after me. I went after them, and they looked like regular people. They were just spirit folk, and they registered as transition spirit folk. I'm thinking, you shouldn't even be able to attack me, let alone wanting to. Like how people know about the spirit world, you die, you transition from ghost to spirit, and then you go, as we've said, you go back to the expression, either by choice or however, back to the expression you were previous to coming here. Well, what happened was they wouldn't stop. They wouldn't stop coming after me. So I had to trace them back, and I found them in their own little idyllic afterlife where there were thousands and thousands and thousands of them. And I asked them, it's like, why do you keep doing this? Oh, she's family. She's part of our culture. We see you as attacking her. We're not going to stop coming after you if you don't stop taking down her protection spells. What was going on was the person I was reading was above in this apartment building. And all of this bad juju was seeping up through the molecular structure of the building and into adjacent units and above. And who did these beings that she was conjuring to protect as well, because she was creating familiars as well, would attack would be the person I was reading all the time. It happens a lot when this person is there. So I'm not naming the person, but this happens quite a bit. And went in and I had to collapse that bubble that these people were in, and those specific attacks stopped. The specific ones stopped. I find them for all ethnic groups, even religious groups. Like I found them for Muslims, Christians, Jews, pagans. I found them all, but also at the same time, you've known from some discussions that I've had on the Interstellar Council and After Show, where there are also all these little bubble realms that some of these different cultures create as like almost like a duplicate timeline where they can exist, and they say spirit folk come and go. It's kind of the same concept in that way, but technology is being used there to create these bubbles. Lemuria Atlantis have it. That Scottish village I mentioned in the other recording have it, and some Native American cultures have it. So as far as I could see. So and some Lyran cultures have it too. So in that, That's not necessarily a bad thing, because some spirit folk chose to stay in those places. Whether that's actually the spirit world in those cases, that remains to be seen. But in this other case, these were purely passed on people. There were no bodily versions among them, and they were attacking. I saw this with Muslim as well, where when Surinder and I tried to purge the Hajj, and they were very protective of that. So I've seen this also in Christian cases when I'm trying to take down an energy collector in a cathedral or church. Who shows up? People with crosses, people with that are in priest and bishop uniforms, popes. This tends to happen there too, and they think you're accosting their religious sites, when in fact they were already accosted long ago. So this is how this has been turning out, and I've been finding these different spirit bubbles or compartmentalized areas in the spirit world. Now, years ago, this was supposedly dealt with. This kind of individualized, compartmentalized heaven thing was dealt with when I won't name the person's name. This particular channeler got messages saying that the spirit world was unifying more and more, based off of also what Jesus once said, "In my Father's kingdom there are many mansions." And it's essentially that mentality, but that was supposedly collapsing to where it was completely unified. I did not see any evidence of the fact that it was completely unified. I saw the exact opposite of that. It's, like I said, the same concept as those technological pockets, or those realms where spirits can come and go and physical people can come and go and interact. It's similar, but not the same. It's the same type of concept. And this is actually, I've been finding it in all manners of reads, all manners of purgings. It's all over the place. And I came to find out that the spirit world is merely a transition point. But if people choose to stay there, this seems to happen. And there was somebody else I passed on not too long ago, helped to pass on, and I may actually include that recording at the end of this one, of a young girl I helped pass on to the spirit world, where she created her own idyllic afterlife, which that's fine. That's cool. Everybody's entitled to do that. Everybody's capable of doing that. People create their own environments all the time. But this was more to a dangerous level, this other thing, to where they were enforcing indoctrination, or they were enforcing religious rule over that of protection and over that of peace and the land being more tranquil. They were affecting here very, very vigorously. And I also know that draconian forces found a way into supposed higher number dimensions, to where they could, with technology, actually use the dimensional layer where they were sitting in to make people think they were higher beings, and to actually enforce that higher vibration or manipulate it in a fashion, even though it's toxic to them in their natural state. But they were in suits, and they were enforcing it down on Earth in that fashion. Do I think this is actually similar to that? Yes and no. Do I think maybe they're responsible somewhere for this? Yeah, possibly, because of the fact that they created the indoctrinated belief systems by which people then were creating the idyllic heavens out of. Yeah, I could see that. But they themselves cannot enter the spirit world. They're more demonic. I've never seen anything technological be able to enter the spirit world. I've seen no evidence of that as of yet. But what the spirit world is where it's more like overlaid on top. It's not like you're going into pearly gates or tunnel, that soul trap stuff. This is like where they can live the existence they lived here, but in more of a spirit form. Like I've seen my grandmother and grandfather that way. I've actually astral traveled there in my sleep before, and saw that the sun was even different there. Everything was different there. Then there's also these in and out points from different parts of creation where different spirits come and go, different souls come and go. But they were experiencing it in their own way and in their own area. But what I experienced with these different indoctrinated groups where they drew a hard line in the sand that they would not blend ideologically with the rest of creation. They would not join anything else. They were very, very harsh. They were very, very dogmatic, and that's not something you expect to find in spirit. Now, when you move on to the spirit world, do you reconnect more to your oversoul, and you actually get a lot more of your divine information back? Absolutely. That always happens, and I've seen that happen every single time, with the exception of these compartmentalized areas. There seems to be a major exception here. It's like they have completely allowed the dogmatic religious beliefs to completely take them over, and they no longer have some kind of connection to that wisdom. It's more like that indoctrination created its own area through co-creative abilities, mass co-creative abilities. And this has been a bit of a mystery as to why this is actually being allowed. Because you've probably heard a couple famous channelers out there. There's one that goes by the nickname of the Janitor. I won't name his actual name, but you'll know who I'm speaking about. That actually in his writings and in his videos before he took them down, talked about how the spirit world was going under a transition, undergoing a transitional phase. Also, you've also heard me speak about where there is like a hospital-like setting before you go on to the spirit world. I've had to amend some of these beliefs recently because that seemed to be a decoding error in the human brain, seeing this transition, because people see hospitals a place of healing and moving forward. Now, are there soul doctors out there that will take you to their own little realm to actually heal your light body, put it back, and those codes then upload to you and heal you here? Yes, that's actually positive. And does the brain decode their realm as a hospital? And you have a beard forming again. There it is again. Now it's on. No, it's not on. Oh, it's on.
Oh, did you see it pop away?
It disappeared.
It popped.
See, this is another creepy thing that's been happening, folks. So we're going to figure that out at some point in the future, or not. But
it's only his computer.
It's only my computer. It's nobody else's. So
we could turn on the same Zoom on my computer and it doesn't happen.
Doesn't happen on hers. But what happens is in this realm, there's a group from the Pleiades. They call themselves the Trisonian Soul Doctors, and I've dealt with them before. We may do a show on them at some point. What happens is if you ask for their assistance, at least sometimes, if you have some kind of injury, they take your light body, they apply certain codes in the injury site of how your physical body is. They upload those codes to your physical body when you come back astrally, and it starts to heal that, or at least stabilize the area in question. And I've had that happen to me a couple of times with my spine and my knees. So there are some things like that actually take place. But this hospital transition point that I've seen orderlies walking around in these hospital settings in different rooms where different people are being healed and or transitioned. But I've also seen beings bypass that, or people as they bypass it altogether, and they're right in the spirit world. So this is what the confusing point is to me. One more point, and you also know about all the stuff we've said about soul traps. I'm not going to go into that entire history at the moment. And also, you know about soul sucking and soul harvesting beings of all the different types. I won't go into the entire history of that. But what I will go into is I saw a being yesterday, which one I dub an Orion Lord. And this is one specific kind that actually Da Vinci was actually trying to show in one of his paintings, where it was supposed to be of Jesus holding the crystal ball with the 3 stars of Orion in the crystal ball. This was signifying more than you realize. This particular being I encountered yesterday was holding a crystal ball that had a lot of pin lights that were inside, little orbs that were inside, little pin lights that were inside, floating around. And these were souls. And one of the soul, what he would do is insert this into his chest and use that as a battery to ingest another soul. They eat it through the chest. And this is this particular being looked like a Nordic, like you'd see in the jumpsuit, had a crystal on his head, whole bit. What some of the New Agers believe they're communicating with his guides. This is another area, of course, that's been infiltrated, and I don't doubt they have their own little idyllic heaven as well. I haven't encountered it yet, but with this ball that he was holding was a soul trap. I got rid of him, got rid of the ball, got rid of all of these souls. But these particular beings, as you know, will try to meet people to try to act as angels, act as guides to usher them to the other side. But another method these beings use is, of course, instilling that self-farming that you heard us talk about on the lifting show. That was episode 99, I believe, to where they will have humans enforcing these codes and enforcing these indoctrinated beliefs. What happened then? It created these compartmentalized idyllic heavens to where these beings have maybe some semblance of control of what happens in the spirit world. And I believe this is where the origin point of this lies. And these particular beings also don't like the fact I'm talking about this at the moment, because this is another aspect on top of cathedral soul traps, on top of infected land, energy collection units, foot spikes, all those things you've heard us talk about. All of this is that's one method of energy extraction. I believe that this regurgitation of belief systems in the spirit world is fracturing certain fundamental energies that are out there and completely turning them on their head. And it's also completely turning different belief systems on their head as well, especially when you believe that the spirit world, that everything is happy, happy, joy, joy there, when I've discovered very recently that it is not. It is actually the transition point back to the whatever form you had previously, if that was your choice, but you're supposed to be able to go anywhere in the cosmos and do anything you wish. And which I still believe that, but finding these different compartmentalized sections, it's disheartening to find these things, but I accept truth when I find it. I don't actually, I'm disheartened by stuff like this, no question, but I adapt. And I actually adapt my information as I go along, and we're reporting this now.
To me, it doesn't really surprise. I'm not surprised by any of this, and in my mind, although it doesn't make sense to you, and in one thing that you said earlier when you were speaking, it was like, talking to the folks here, guys, how it's supposed to be in the afterlife. Do we? I mean, I will.
Or how people interpret it.
Do we actually really know that yet? And the reason I say that is, in all honesty, when both my siblings passed away, my brother made a beeline back. I mean, he made himself known to those of us that, were able to sense him in our ways, because, he was so young. He was just 48, that he desperately wanted to communicate back, that he was okay. Again, that it wasn't a mistake, that it really was his time to go. And he had things he was doing that are important, where he is. He didn't act, I guess in a sense you would say that Michael did go to, let's say, a hospital-like setting, because Michael had such intent in his own mind, heart, body, soul, that he was going to communicate with living, on a very in-depth level, let's say. And that's kind of like a no-no if you are not to interfere in that way, not to do whatever. But he was, Chris and I would literally, here comes Michael, and then here comes the guys in the white jacket to carry him back off. So, because his intention was, that strong. And eventually, Michael showed less and less as he gained more, let's say, remembrance. And then, then was also able to, and I believe very strongly, he agreed with some of the, adopted, let's say, rules of engagement. He agreed with them enough to start backing off. So now what you may get really from Michael is more of a sense that he's around, but not all this direct, in the sense that he's around in kind of a, supportive way, but not in a, I'm going to tell you what you need to know for your next move, or be involved in that kind of a way at all. And so, he did that. Now, Jenny, when Jenny passed a little over a year ago, she made herself known to those who could feel her. But for some of us, including myself, I was so unbelievably surprised and, let's say, distraught, okay, that I could semi feel her. But, I myself even blocked communication because I think I was a little bit angry at the whole situation. But she made a point, one of the times where she really made a point to come through. One of the things that was so important that she wanted to say, and to us, but really she said it to you, talking to you,
to me,
through Katrina really being there as well, was the simple fact that our understanding of how things really operate, really we're only touching the surface
only
of it.
A small amount.
We're only,
as much as we've covered, it's only this.
As much as we've tried to cover, it is, it's not unimportant. It gives the basis of exploration. It does all of that, but it is so minute, the surface that we have scratched as far as our understanding. That little bit of conversation has never left me. It really kind of ingrained itself as such a truth as far as where we are in our expanse and our exploration, that it opened me up to just putting out there more of, I just want to know how it all works. I feel there's knowledge and power. I feel the more that we understand about the possibilities, and especially understand our co-creative intent and how all of that works, that it does make sense. And it's going to, of course, challenge every belief system or every truth that we actually have adopted. It's going to change them. It's going to, if you truly are going at it with, instead of I know the truth, that I would like to know more about all of this, and I understand I may only be scratching the surface, and you change that perspective to one of a student who wants to know versus someone who does know, then, you're more open in a neutral state to listen to some of this, to ponder this around, and let your, again, we talk about that discernment, let your discernment tell you, is there a possibility you think maybe there could be something to this, or no, don't listen to it at this moment. And again, I always say with discernment, 6 months later, you may change your mind, that you could listen to something you couldn't hear 6 months ago, but you weren't ready 6 months ago. So my whole thing about this is, again, the old adage, the one, I think it really has always seemed to play out more and more to be an interesting concept that's hard for people, because it really does change your truths, is so as above, so as below.
As above, so below, yeah.
Right? Basically the saying that, you want to believe that, when you pass on, walk through that door, immediately, poof, well, you're...
what happened was...
And it doesn't happen like that.
As above, so below is... You have the indoctrinated belief system down here, and you have the even greater version of it here.
And so again, but it also goes to show that it really isn't an epiphany. Death is not an epiphany, but death is merely a transition. So what do you take with you when you die? Well, you take your current belief system. You really do walk over with it. It doesn't just seem to poof away. And so depending on where you are, in your own exploration, if you've capped your belief system and you die with your capped belief system, you're walking over with, this is the way it is. And so again, maybe not understanding the biggest potential of your co-creativeness, you're going to go back into your current belief system. So, and in exploration, the fact that we've done many, 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 many lives, I'm sure there's, that we have adopted multiple belief systems, and, we've incarnated so many thousands of times to say, I'm going to spend the next 20 incarnations being a devout whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And with that comes the indoctrination of very strict belief systems. Now, again, if you're in a belief system where your particular, let's say, religious practices are the correct one, and you may not even realize that you have become prejudiced against certain, skin colorings or whatever, because you believe that they are lesser than because they don't believe you, and that whole race chooses not to, let's say, and I do mean black, white, Asian, I mean that kind of, whatever, that you're also then carrying into the spirit world that way. Now, there's interesting thoughts. If you're in the middle of, I'm going to do this for multiple lives, I was telling Chris, I said, well, isn't it easier if you're really going to immerse yourself in something like an actor who stays in role when the scene's over, but they stay in character?
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't it be, maybe, it's a quick transition where they're just going to decide they want to come right back and they stay within character. And so that desire to really merge back, let's say again, with that concept of the higher self isn't done. Now, so how do you cut the pie? Well, it isn't done because it's negativity controlling it? It isn't done because the soul's controlling it, it wants to do this or whatever. And I'm like, I'm open to all of the above. So I'm open to, the United Nations of heaven with all of the different places, and all of the different thoughts and belief systems. Why not? And, and then again, why not, that it transitions. So I think, again, as we're learning and growing, the more that people can adapt certain, again, basics of how do you want to treat another person, kind of the basics. And those moderate basic thought beliefs of, treating other persons as you would have yourself be treated, and those generalities, they're amongst every single religion in the moderate kind of thought process. It's a part of all of them. They all carry some same basic threads. So, I think, again, what will probably continue to happen, and it may have been happening, those bubbles in heaven could have been way worse with how people were 500 or 600 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it has been changing, or certain ideologies have been no longer
Mm-hmm.
needed. They've been, let's say, collapsing,
Mm-hmm.
but you're still left with some, and it's going to be depending on where you are when you are walking through, when you pass here and you're going there. Because again, it makes logical sense to me, because here we have all of these spirits that are terrified of going to hell. And so they're hiding here as ghosts,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're not going. They don't want to go. They just feel they're if they go, they're going to hell, damnation.
And have the Orions created facsimiles of this in places? Yes, they have. Yeah.
Right. So the fact that it's complicated doesn't surprise me. I'm not surprised whatsoever. It actually makes more sense to me, because I'm the type of person that just doesn't believe that poof, the light bulb comes on once you just graduate yourself over. Again, I think if you're more open to just wanting to know what is, versus knowing what is, and you're open to that, and you do believe in, things should be for your highest good and things like that, I can certainly see how that's a mindset that could be easier to transition through it, to get back to whatever it is you want to potentially get back to, or I'm coming back in for service again.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think it's all of the above. I think it's a tangled ball of mess, just like it's a tangled ball of mess here. So it doesn't surprise me. And it's an interesting thing. So again, you have the dynamics of being in certain belief systems where you believe your truth is actually trying to be the benevolent one that literally is caring. But, you know, you've got these people that are doing negative things, and, you know, they aren't in alignment, and they're doing these negative things from your perception point. So here you have Chris looking at them going, no, you guys are the ones that are, you know, I'm seeing it correctly. You guys are the ones that are polluting the land, doing this, doing that, harming people. And they're like, no, we're just trying to protect, but they're trying to protect from their belief system,
from their beliefs and their ideology.
And they believe as well that there are people that are around that are not for everyone's highest good. But in this instance, it's him and the person above and whatever, that the world needs to be protected from them. So it's a very, I mean, who's right, who's wrong? And I get back to, it depends on your perspective. Depends on where you're at. You're learning who's right and who's wrong. But as we move forward, we'll get out more of the, what's right and wrong, and more into balanced experience. And what does that mean? Now, again, I'm not, you know, this is for Patreon. You guys know, if you say something, what I just said, people think, oh, you're just one of those, you know, laissez-faire, whatever, you know, you must believe that, you know, child abuse is just fine, or tricking a child into doing something sexual to you. And I'm like, you guys are stupid. That's such a stupid thought. That's really what I think. You know, but no, we will come to, you know, agreements and of what we feel is for a child's highest good on how to grow, and, you know, and to, you know, come into society as whole as can be. That's where we're going. So the unity of all that, but there will be is going to occur. But the concept of, you know, understanding that we had to experience all of this stuff to be able to come out with a balanced perspective, will also be better understood. And then society will decide, you know, what is acceptable and not acceptable for everyone's highest good. And I think the hardest thing right now, is you still have to challenge your belief systems. You still have to challenge, have you capped yourself? You still have to decide whether you're open to new thoughts and ideas. And then again, what are you daydreaming in? We talk about it all the time right now. There's a lot of fear mongering. Are you going to daydream in more fear? You're in fear. You're going to be in fear. And, you know, be it taking a vaccine or are you going to live in fear, which then the earth will give you more things to be fearful of? Or are you going to see interactions begin to change? Governments that actually represent the people, you know, and, you know, put in what needs to be put into place to, you know, more ensure that, rather than what we've got going on now. So, you know, I guess I just am so not surprised. It actually makes more sense to me. But again, it makes us challenge our belief, because the one area, again, that we've always talked about, and since it's just between you and us, right? This isn't going out as a lifting episode. Again, I have to bring up the New Age concepts. And then the New Age concepts, again, you know, one of these, I understand wanting the belief system, that poof, you know everything, that poof, it's all benevolent, that poof, because who isn't tired? We've said this a billion times. Who's not tired? I get tired, right? My best friend sometimes is my pillow when I lay my head down and go to sleep. But again, that is more of an infiltration ideal that came in. And just like with other ideals, it's kind of like, I call it kind of the, you know, Charlie Brown and Lucy moment, where let me pump you full of these ideas so that you'll get all excited. So you feel that you're moving ahead, so that I can pull the football out and you're just going to fall on your back and be hurting. And there's, everything's been, you know, infiltrated. And so it doesn't surprise me that some of the spirit world could be infiltrated, meaning there has to be a link to that for some folks to get them back into the false reincarnation grid, but as well as other ways to get into it.
And get other people that are down here into it. Like, say, if you have an ancestry within a particular belief system and you've broken away, like some people that I've seen, sometimes these idyllic heavens will act as enforcers to that code as well. I've noticed this very thing where, like, there was a Hindu one I ran into one time that was trying to enforce Shiva worship. And I had to collapse that particular one. It was a subdivision within the subdivision that was for that.
But
and
I
I
do
had
believe,
to get rid of that one. Yeah.
and you did, but I do believe at times what will happen is people will, in general, these places will become collapsed themselves because they will not serve a purpose anymore. So you have to think of it like this. Let's say you volunteered, you were alive 600 years ago, and everyone coming in through your family tree, there's some identity with that, and you just decided to hang around on the other side to make sure these people get the experience they're supposed to get, that you guys are contributing what you feel you should be contributing and whatever's going on. So again, you have to remember, you could have people that are really in an older mindset, but again, there's no time. So for them, it could be two weeks, you know what I mean? A month. They've done a 6-month tour. They're hanging out, helping all these people, very busy because a lot of people will be coming and going, and you're there with actually, you know, maybe not now in a perspective to change your perception. You're just in this job function right now of trying to give people the experience of the belief system that you had when you were here, you know, 600 years ago. So what will end up happening, I believe, is that people will grow here and then they will put out an intention that they're not going there the next time. It's like they're going to bypass where they normally go. And then you've got, you know, like the Maytag repairman, you got people sitting around going, what in the world just happened? Why are they doing this? They may themselves then need a balancing act, may need to come in again to get further balance. Who knows? I mean, it makes sense if that's what happens, to get a better perspective of it. We've said it before, you know, you've said before, even the one who's known, you know, as Jesus has got to come back in to be better balanced.
Yeah, this is also, misconception. As we've said on previous recordings, he doesn't take on the sins of others. He actually dislikes that. And he doesn't want the karma or anything. And he doesn't always feel justified to correct his story with other people. I found somebody the other day that actually thought he was around her. And I came to find out, of course, it was reptilian, got rid of it. But then I tried to get the real Jesus to come in and explain. He wouldn't do it. He just would not do it. And he didn't feel obligated to have to defend his position. So I also came to find out that he's now, as we are talking, is in the middle of a transition into this form again under a completely different name. You will never know his face, never know it's him. Could be a different gender for all you know. You don't know. You have no clue. Different race, doesn't matter. Well, he's coming in under a different name, and he's going to be completely away from getting those karma dumps in that fashion, because even in the inner earth, he's not completely immune to getting hit with those thought forms, even though he's blocking that in the chamber he's in. You know, this was another way for him to come in and help, but at the same time, so that he did not get hit himself. And this is actually what's going on even as we speak. I know he doesn't care that I'm talking about that, or else he would have come in earlier to say don't, but this is what's going on with him at the moment.
And I guess what I'm saying is that think of the same type of perspective being so out of balance and needing, and in a sense, then there is some, let's say, stagnation. There's something that may be keeping you, that you've got to try to balance that out, you know, for, I don't know what kind of life is going to be in store for this one. It seems to me it would make sense that it's more of just what some people would just say an ordinary life. Nothing splashy, nothing big deal, nothing whatever. Not that it's not meaningful, not that the vibration isn't meaningful. Again, everything's meaningful, but I guess trying to get perspective of, just an ordinary, common, as people would think of as a common type of life, to kind of balance that out. And, there's a good chance even for, I would think, for many people who have gone askew, again, those that are living in these realms that are keeping a certain truth and keeping something really capped. I wouldn't be surprised as eventually those souls do not choose to upgrade their information, let's say by coming in to balance out a little bit better. And I wouldn't be surprised that many beings who have been so worshipped have to find a way again in order that may need to come here or go somewhere to balance out, let's say, the experience. And they may be having this extraordinary godlike experience here. And then at the same, obviously everything is now at the same time having the opposite of that. Maybe not, I don't necessarily even mean in a bad way, but in ordinary, to balance out the experience so that you're not crazy in the end. Because again, the goal is to be balanced and not overtly on one side or the other. So, it's a lot to think about. I think, again, it's always going to challenge our own personal belief systems. It's going to challenge our concepts of what we feel is right and wrong. There is a right or wrong when you're walking on this earth. You can't go around just killing people. But again, in the concept of not overage, because some of that is just overage, getting rid of the overage and having the balancing of experience to gain as much knowledge as possible within our learning experience, again, that we still believe is the concept of from the fall to the lifting, going from darkness to light. And there's nothing that's changed since we began speaking that has changed that our belief system, that this really is our understanding of in this expression, this learning that we're in, that is kind of what it's all about for us in this learning expression.
Yeah, exactly. And this, I believe, will, this what's going on with the spirit world will change. And I believe it has in some areas. There's a lot of good to people creating their own idyllic afterlives. I've seen a lot of interesting, funny, and good stuff that people have been very creative with, and it's spreading that creative energy. But I do believe these idyllic heavens, these with the indoctrinated belief systems, and I do believe that eventually is going to come to a close. But that part may take some time. But it isn't also that difficult to collapse some of these compartmentalized areas either, that once somebody's belief system, enough people have changed that belief system, there'd be no need for that to even exist anymore. It will eventually collapse itself, but can you do it? Yes, but it doesn't mean that those people won't recreate it once they go over there. So the idea is to incrementally change it down here, and to be able to weed out anything that is not truthful while you're down here, and to actually change things down here and create. Well, you've heard the phrase "heaven on earth." That's exactly what you're supposed to actually do here, is create that idyllic heaven or that idyllic place down here, and then that reflects up there, and that also goes the as above, so below. So therefore, there isn't another one of those idyllic heavens raining back down that those indoctrinated beliefs and then cycling it back. Once you get rid of one side of it, that other one has no purpose over here. So I
always joke, because I tell Chris, what you need is you need to find out who's in charge of that mess over there. I mean, we're always like, oh Lord, look at the mess over here, and I'm like, oh my,
who's the
Lord,
supervisor?
Who's the supervisor for that mess over there?
Or the general manager? Yeah.
That would be an interesting conversation of someone who is balancing out their infinite patience.
yeah. Who's the general manager of these different heavens? It's like trying to find the general manager of a Walmart or something, where it's like who's the head of this branch, and the thing of it is, I've never found anybody in charge of these different branches. There's never been an in charge person. It's always been these little united groups, kind of like a collective or a commune type of thing. But I've never actually found anybody in charge that I could see. Maybe the realm itself was a being. I don't know. I have not seen anybody, but but so far it's just been kind of a collective, like commune sort of deal. But it'd be interesting at some point to find out if there are any actual beings in charge of these different areas, or appointed, say, prophets, or appointed people that they find as a leader. I've not found any yet, but it'll be fascinating to find out if there is. So I think we're good here today for this discussion with me and Joanna on these idyllic heavens and idyllic afterlives, and the sometimes the havoc that it wreaks down here, and how we wreak havoc in spirit sometimes, and when all of that bubbles up to spirit. And I say up, but that's not necessarily true. It's just basically everywhere and around us, kind of like the Force in Star Wars. It's just everywhere around us, essentially, and it's just another level that we go to. So with that said, thank you everybody for watching. This was a bit impromptu on our part as well, after that session I just had a little while ago. So thank you everybody for watching. Bye bye now.